Welcome to the girls' room. So glad you came to join us in the girls' room. Fun, fellowship, and love. The girls' room. Bring your worries and your cares. The girls' room. You won't leave the way you came. Welcome to the girls' room. So glad you came to join us in the girls' room. Fun, fellowship, and love. The girls'
Hello, everyone. I'm Pastor Yolanda Whitlow-Tyus, and I am super excited to share in this edition of the Girls' Room with you. Yes. Are you ready for our panel of beautiful ladies? Well, here they are. Francine Walker, Tamika Austin, Carla Pace, and Dr. Kim Logan Nolan. Welcome to the Girls' Room, a judge-free zone where every woman's voice counts. Today we're talking about health and wellness, and we all have purpose and dreams, and we need to be healthy, y'all, in order to achieve our purpose. Who's ready to learn more about keeping these bodies intact? Yes. Today we're speaking with a health and wellness expert who has been in private practice for a number of years. She's been practicing at the Betts Medical Group in Oak Park, Michigan. Welcome to the Girls' Room, Dr. Margaret Betts. Welcome, Dr. Betts. What's the number one health concern for women?
Primarily premature death from most likely cancer. And the number one cancer that we are concerned with is breast cancer.
Breast
Yes.
cancer. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this breast cancer, it has overtaken. How would you say, well, in regards to wellness, that we could further help ourselves in regards to that?
Well, when cancer came on the scene probably about 50 years ago, it was a big C. Now it's a small c. And I say it's a little c because you can live and overcome cancer. Normally cancer occurs after 20, 30, 40 years of mistreating your body. Yes. How do you treat your body well? You eat right. Food is a messenger. If you send a bad message, you get a bad result. If you send a good message, you get a good result. Wow. So when we say we don't want to have develop cancer, and we're drinking alcohol and eating, well, I don't want to put anybody on blast, right. But you got to feed your body the things that it needs. And I mix my medicine with spirituality. I go right to Genesis, 1st chapter, 29th verse, and God gives us a message or a lesson in terms of what we should eat.
Awesome.
So with so many things on our plates and responsibilities, it can become overwhelming.
Yes.
How can we balance health and wellness?
Health and wellness is basically the same thing. You balance health by doing, there are 7 tenets that I always share with my patients. You got to eat right. You got to exercise right. You got to drink good, clean water. Now we talk about good, clean water. You got to love. You got to pray. You got to rest, because when you get to REM sleep, it's restorative. And then you have to have some relaxation, a hobby that takes you away from everything that the day brings. So if you have those 7 tenets, you are going to balance it all. And then realize, if you're Superwoman today, it's because God has allowed you to be Superwoman. When you get to my age, you realize God did all of it. I didn't do any of it.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Self-care is the new buzzword.
Right, self-care.
Yes.
You hear it everywhere. Make sure you self-care. Should we feel guilty for taking that spa day once a month?
You should take a spa day once a week.
Oh.
So that's my answer. That's my answer. Really.
Yes. Tell us.
On the plane, when they say if the plane should crash, you put the oxygen on your, and you have someone with you, a child or dependent adult.
Sure.
You put the oxygen on yourself first. So you must love yourself first. If you're no good to you, you can't be any good to your husband, your kids, etc. So
And it's
you
not
really,
an option. So
it's not an option anymore. It used to be when our parents raised us. That's all they did. They went to
Sure.
work, or they didn't work. So they had the opportunity to do all of this. Now we are working in all types of professions. You got the reverend here. That is an overwhelming responsibility.
Absolutely.
And when you go home, you need to have that time, or when you go to the spa, you need to have that time for you, that time to rejuvenate, to replenish, refresh, and
So you're
rejuvenate.
saying you don't even have to go to the spa, you just need to take that time for
Take that time.
yourself.
When my kids were little, they're late 20s, early 30s. We live in an old house. I would walk up to the third floor and stay there for maybe 6 or 8 hours just to replenish myself.
Right.
When they started realizing my presence, they'd say, "Mom's home, Mom's home." And then they started crawling to the third floor. Then I took a Friday night, Saturday to the St. Regis. Of course, I gave my husband the key, because you don't want to go to St. Regis without him having the key. And I took one book, and I just stayed there and just rejuvenated. Because your work, your lifestyle, your family beat you down. And
That's good.
yes, we want a family, but it's hard.
It is.
It is very hard for women to do everything.
Sure.
And you have to understand that, and then take time out for yourself.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's good.
You know what? We hear so much nowadays about our food and the additives, preservatives. Well, two-part question. What is actually going on with the whole food thing where you have real milk and then, no, this is the real milk, or, this is the real chicken and this is the chicken that you got the organic and you got organic carrots versus the regular carrots. I just thought carrots were healthy all in itself. What should we be eating and who should we be listening to?
You should be listening to your inner self.
That's good.
This world is a capitalistic world, and they want to make money. When they came out with Monsanto and all those other chemical companies came out with the genetically modified organisms, the GMOs, they promised that the insects wouldn't eat up the crop. The crop would grow bigger and faster, and you'd have more to market. But they didn't realize that the genetically modified organisms cause cancer, cause disease, et cetera, et cetera. So now we are a little bit more educated because we have the smartphones who are smarter than us, and the computers, and we can type in anything and get an answer right away. So now you want to eat as much as possible non-GMO, non-genetically modified organisms. You can go online, and I just did a seminar. Health is in your hands. HANDS is an acronym, but it's also something to help you to do. You can go online and look up cloned meats.
Wow.
There are cloned meats in your meat departments, and they don't have to tell you. You can go online and look up the Dirty Dozen and the consistently cleaned fruits and vegetables, so that you'll have an idea of the consistently cleaned fruits and vegetables. You never have to buy organic, but the Dirty Dozen you always have to buy organic.
Oh, wow.
And we really want to begin to realize that and to focus on it, because there are over 800,000 additives in our foods today. So you got to really understand that.
We're going to have to get back to that Dirty Dozen, all right? I want to know more about that. Well, we're getting ready to put a pin in our conversation right now, but we will return more dealing with health and wellness, talk with our guest, Dr. Margaret Betts, right here in the Girls Room. Let's thank Dr. Margaret Best for coming out and sharing with us with this great expertise advice that you gave to us today. Thank you so much for coming into the girls' room, Dr. Best. Now, I would like to introduce a fitness trainer. Uh-oh, y'all.
Oh,
I feel the
From
pain.
yoga. Oh, yes. I always wanted to do yoga, but that was just On the hill in Grosse Pointe, Lindsay Butler.
Welcome.
Hi, Lindsay.
Welcome, Lindsay.
Thanks for joining us, and welcome to the girls' room. Lindsay, what's the difference between regular yoga and Christian yoga?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a difference. Regular yoga is just you're working the mind and the body. My yoga is the mind, body, and the soul. You're connecting with God on your mat. There's just a few differences. We do Christian music instead of just like the regular basic music that a regular studio would use. And we have a Bible verse that we meditate on in the beginning, and then we have a prayer at the end. So kind of just wrapping it up and thanking the Holy Spirit for coming into our room.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay,
Praise the Lord.
now listen, Lindsay. Is that, and I love the fact, I'm always looking for Christian environments to be in. But all right now, when we get into the yoga thing and I'm on the mat, I have a broken patella. How will that impact me? How can that help me?
We have tons of modifications always, and we have blocks and straps, stuff like that to use. And a lot of times you're just laying on your mat and you're connecting with God and just focusing on that.
So this is not an age thing. I mean, this is about being healthy and in tune with
your body.
Yes. I love that. I love it.
So why is yoga better than aerobics?
Well, I actually love both. I
Okay.
think that you have to have that balance. Either it's swimming, which is low impact, running is more of a high impact, so that's a little bit tougher on your body. But yoga, I think, is just so good for the little muscles that you don't use on a regular basis to build those.
Those are the ones that hurt.
Because, yeah. But when you think about it, if you slip on ice in the wintertime, you have to use all of that muscle. You can't just use the little tiny muscle. You've got to use the whole muscle. So really building everything together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, for somebody like me, I'm a mom, but my kids are a little more independent. How would I start on the road to health with yoga or yoga regimen or even high impact aerobics? Where's a good place to start?
A great place to start is just starting at home. Get a book. We actually, one of the owners of my studio, she just wrote a book. It's called Balance in Action. And it's just about balancing. Just start there, just with some little poses, and I think that that's probably the best place to start.
For about how long would you recommend?
I don't know. It all depends on the person. But I mean, just try out a class. Maybe you can drop your kids off and just try a class, see if it fits in your schedule, and go from there.
How long is a class?
1 hour.
1 hour.
Yep.
Okay.
1 hour.
Now I'm a personal trainer, but I more so work with the weights and everything. And I think that this is amazing to actually hear that there's an alternative out there that I can actually send them to, because more so people come to me and they're like, okay, I want to get my body in shape, but a lot of their problem is not about their weight and everything. It's about their mental. And before they can actually get their body in shape, they have to get their mental in shape. So I think that it would be amazing as their first step before they even come to me. So that's great to know that someone actually has like a Christian yoga, so it can get them focused first before they even move on to the next step.
Because Lindsay, stress is a silent killer, right, Dr. Beth? And this is something that could be very helpful for people.
Yeah, and I'm also a personal trainer. I work with a lot of people that do weights. I personally lift weights, and it is a perfect balance. Life is about balance, and this is just the perfect thing for that.
So we're going up to that 3rd floor and do some yoga.
Yes. Well,
Just
you all
stretch.
heard it. Y'all know what we need to start doing.
Yes.
If you know you need to get in shape, both mentally and physically, you can find
Get
out
that
more about
pose.
Christian yoga on their website, www.livingwatersyoga.com. Stay right here. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Today's show is all about health and wellness. Next, a family who suffered for years until they found a remedy which turned their lives around. Welcome Sean, Latrell, and Kelsey Williams to the girls' room. Welcome, family. Yes. Latrell, your daughter Kelsey was suffering what appeared to be a life-altering disease. Explain her disease to us.
Well, it started off, she was just kind of losing weight, and we noticed the weight loss over a few months, but we thought it was because of the summer. She was outside, she'd been playing, but then I started noticing symptoms that I had previously, and so I took her to the doctor, and long story short, the doctor diagnosed her with Crohn's disease. So she was diagnosed in April of 2015, and she went kind of through the summer and kind of off and on taking prednisone and Prilosec, and it seemed to help a little bit, but I'm of the mindset of give your body the proper nutrients, and God created it to heal itself. And so I began to seek out a chiropractor, and that she was originally going to, and she was giving her some things, and it was starting to help a little bit. But by the time she returned to school, by October, she could hardly walk. And it was going from bad to worse. By the time we got her to the doctor, it had formed into what was called a perianal fistula. So they had given us, taken us into the back room and gave us the back room talk. And if you've ever been to the back room, that's not the place you want to be, where they say your 11-year-old needs a colostomy. And so my husband just said, no, we're going to pray first. And then we'll let you know what we decide.
Yes, come on.
And she was this cheery, just happy little girl that everyone just loved. And so to hear this, that your daughter now has this disease and it's causing her bowels to go the other way, what do you do? And so the first thing was prayer. And her godparents were there, and we began to pray. And we said, no, not yet. God says, wait. And so they admitted her and put her in just a private room. And my husband called the COO of our company, and he reached out to him. And Mark said, no problem. We're going to pray from this side. And the formulator of our company called me a few hours later, and he was speaking at a pharmaceutical convention in Northern California. And the first words out of his mouth was, Latrell, this is Dr. Paul Sullivan. I'd never met this man. I just knew that he was the formulator. And if you give your body the proper supplements and proper food, that it'll begin to heal itself. But his words to me were, you're a good mom. Well, for any mother, when your child is sick, the first thing, it's all you. It's your fault. You've done it. It's, you feel the mommy guilt. And that's where I was. And I just cried. And he said, all right, now let me just ask you, what medications has she been on? And I said, well, was on an inhaler. And he began to tell me from a pharmaceutical position what inhalers actually do to the intestinal lining. Didn't know. Prednisone, Prilosec. He began to tell me what those do. And he said, okay. He said, what do they want to give her? And I said, well, they'd like to give her colostomy. He said, no. He said, she's too young. I would not recommend that. However, it is your choice. And I said, okay. And he said, so what we need to do is we need to eliminate the toxins from the medications. And he said, because medication can stay in your body from 6 months to a year. So I need to eliminate that. He said, then I need to formulate to build up her body. And he began to formulate. And I said, okay, we do not formulate for children. And he said, I own the company. I can do what I want.
Kelsey, can I ask you, how has your life changed since the healing process has begun? Because you do not look like what you've been through.
That's right.
Well, I have been feeling better, and I have obviously put on the pounds that I have needed. I went from having the tube in my nose and that I had as when I was 11, from just eating regularly now. I can run around with my friends now. I just go wherever I want, and I don't have to worry about anything. I don't stress about anything. I'm better.
Get ready to get that car, okay?
So, Dad, what was your role? I know your little girl. How did you feel about all this?
Obviously, it's always important to pray first and then to go back to work so the insurance pays the bills.
I like that.
For me, it was troublesome. And this is, as you said, I'm a dad. I'm a protector, a coverer of my entire family. So to see our little girl go from a normal weight down to about 59 pounds at 11 years old, and to give you a perspective, my wife and I were at an event, and she was there. Kelsey was in an auditorium, and Kelsey was out in the auditorium, and we looked at her compared to her friend, who's noticeably taller, but size-wise, their weight was always similar, and Kelsey just looked noticeably smaller. So that's when we began to get the research going, found out, again, the Crohn's was there, and praise God, my wife suffered from it back in just after high school. But in her case, it was eliminated. But in Kelsey's case, when we had a upper and lower GI done, we could just see the ulcers, all over. So again, you begin to pray. That's the most significant thing. I will say, as my wife mentioned, Dr. Paul Sullivan. I'm from Missouri. I'm from the show me state, in other words. You got to show me proof of things. Well, this nutrition, it's not vitamins, it's actually nutrition that this gentleman, Dr. Sullivan, created initially for his own daughter, who had suffered from some debilitating disease years ago. She was in a study with 48 kids, and he began to give her nutrition based on time. It's chronobiology, chronos being time. He gave her this particular nutrition at a certain time. She was the only one of 48 kids to survive. So he committed his entire life to this nutrition. Well, my wife, through my godbrother, found out about the nutrition, and that's how we were led to it, and it's been an absolute blessing. So.
Log on to betterhealth.idlife.com. Remember, your physical health is as important as your spiritual health. Get what you need to ensure your best health. Thanks to our guest, Dr. Margaret Betts, and from the Christian Yoga Room, Lindsay Butler. We come to see you, Lindsay. Well, that's all for our show today. Tune in next week for another great edition of the Girls Room. Until then, don't forget that your health is your ticket to a well-rounded and enjoyable life.
Welcome to the Girls Room.